Thank you, Chuck. Obviously coming off a tough loss versus South Florida, you know, I thought, obviously South Florida played very well. Coach Taggart's done a really good job. They have a really, tough offense. They got a really good scheme with the stable of athletes that they have, and they present a lot of different problems for you schematically and how you're trying to match up, and they're just a tough group to match up with, with Flowers and Mack and Adams and, all the, other guys that they have. Just, they're a tough team, and, it was a tough loss for us. Proud of our kids. I thought they fought to the end, so that was great to see. And now we move on to play another, good team in Notre Dame. We know very well. We play them every year. Not one of their better years, but they're still Notre Dame, and they're still really good. Kaiser's, probably could be a first-round draft choice in the draft. He's a really good player. So we'll see. It's going to be a tough game for us, and hopefully we can rebound, and we have to rebound after a tough loss against a really good Notre Dame team in Jacksonville.
Before we go to questions, quick correction on my part. The score of the game was 52-45. I want to make sure I have that correct before we go to questions. For questions for Coach Niumatalolo, please *1 on your telephone keypad to join the queue. Then the operator will introduce you.
Our first question is from Gene Wing with the Washington Post.
Hey, Ken, good morning. When you just look back on the South Florida game, particularly defensively, what are some areas that you want to clean up heading into Notre Dame? I imagine that third down conversions is something you're looking at. South Florida converted their first 12 in a row.
Definitely, third down is something that we have to improve on. It's something we spent a lot of time in the off season trying to improve on, and we obviously struggled against them. So we're looking at some things schematically, personnel-wise, just things we can do to definitely improve on that. Our tackling in open field, which is always an issue, but and everybody's open field tackling is an issue in football now, just from the standpoint of people spread you out. The spaces are so big out there, and just trying to tackle people in space. And when you got really good players like South Florida, it just compounds bad angles, not proper pursuit stuff, not staying in your gaps. But we got to work on that, So we look at that. There's just things we got to try to improve schematically, technique, fundamental-wise. But it's, as we look at it, it's not just on the players as coaches. We look at ourselves. What can we do in doing a better job of getting our guys in better position? But we missed a ton of tackles, and a lot of that had to do with them, because they're so athletic. But we also can take much better angles, and those are the things that we have to work on.
Thank you, Ken.
Hi, Gene.
Our next question comes from Bill Wagner with the Baltimore Sun Media Group.
Hey, Coach, you rebounded very well from your first loss of the season, to win two big games. Does that give you confidence that you'll be able to do it again?
Well, we hope so, Wags. But, we got another tough challenge, as you said. We came off Air Force to Houston and, coming off a tough loss to South Florida, and we have Notre Dame. And hopefully our kids can rebound. But it's the same thing every week that we tell them, whether we win or lose, you got to move on. When you win, you can't worry about people patting it back. And when you lose, you can't really worry about the criticism from the outside. You just got to look inside and how you can get better, how we can coach better, how our players can play better. And hopefully they will, Wags. Hopefully they'll bounce back. We got a pretty resilient group, but hopefully we will.
With regard to Notre Dame, they did have some struggles early in the season, but obviously it looks as though they got things turned around against Miami. When you're beating Miami, that means you're still a pretty good team.
They're still Notre Dame, Wags. That they're still Notre Dame. They got really, really good players. Brian Kelly is one of the best coaches in college football. That hasn't changed. They've had some tough losses, but they're still Notre Dame, and they still got a great football coach, and they got great players and a great staff. So it hasn't changed for us. We know who they are. This is going to be an uphill battle for us, and hopefully we'll be ready, and hopefully we'll be ready to compete and find a way to get a W against a team that's we've had a hard time beating over the years.
Can you talk about playing in Jacksonville? I know you've played Notre Dame in a lot of venues, but can you talk about going down to Jacksonville, playing in an NFL stadium, and then secondly, dovetailing with that, how is playing in Florida twice in 2 weeks to help recruiting?
Well, first and foremost, just being in a Navy town in Jacksonville, it's, the whole premise behind it. Hopefully it'll help us in recruiting down in Florida. But hopefully we do well. We don't want to travel over there twice and not do well. So
right.
First and foremost, hopefully we do well. But, playing in a pro stadium, playing in a stadium in a city, that, a Navy town should help us. But also, going down there twice for recruiting should help us. But we have to do well too, so hopefully we'll play better.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye, Wags.
Our next question comes from Dan Tortora with wakeupcalldt.com.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Good. To take a look at, obviously this conference this season for the American, you had gone into this past week as the only team that was undefeated in the conference and then took the loss to South Florida. What can you say about, from top to bottom, the competitiveness of the conference this year?
I mean, it's a tough league. I mean, it was a tough league last year, and it's a tough league this year. And, teams seem like they've only gotten better. I've watched a little bit of Memphis on tape, or on TV, and, they're much improved. SMU is much improved. Central Florida, are doing well. East Carolina, all these teams. I mean, it's just top to bottom. We played UConn, and we escaped barely with the W. And so, from Houston to everybody in our conference, Memphis, it's a tough league. It's a tough league, and even though we don't play everybody on the other side, you just feel like top to bottom, like you mentioned, this is a tough league. There's a lot of parity in our league.
And then looking at the upcoming matchup with Notre Dame that you just spoke on recently here, to have Navy have been an independent for so long and Notre Dame obviously still in that place, and what can you say about being a part of a conference and, what your thoughts are? Obviously these decisions are made by, other people, but when it trickles down to the coach, what can you say about moving from an independent to being a part of this conference?
Well, it's like you just talked about, being in a tough league, and I feel, because I was just rambling off the top of my head, I didn't even mention South Florida. Obviously, who beat us in Temple. There's so many good teams, but it's helped us coming into a conference. I think just with the geographical, part of our league. We're spread out all over the country. I think it's helped us because we get, publicity and media coverage from so many different states, so many different cities from across the country, from Texas to Florida up to Connecticut. And I think that's helped us. I think with some of the wins that we've gotten, we've gotten more notoriety with the wins. And being in a good conference, like you just mentioned, coming to a conference I think we thought would help us, but being in a conference that's very, very competitive, a very good conference, I think that's also helped too. And so, we're grateful. We knew it was the right move for our program to come into a conference, and it's definitely helped us with publicity and in recruiting. Unfortunately for us, every week's a battle, but it's part of the deal. You know what I mean? In a tough conference like this, that every week it's a tough game.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it.
All right, Dan.
And we have time for one more for Coach Niumatalolo, please.
Our next question comes from Leo Haggerty with It's Sports Magazine.
Good morning, Coach.
Hey, Leo. How you doing?
Pretty good. Coach, after falling behind 28-0 in the first quarter, and as you said Friday night, and I paraphrased, the ship was sinking, how proud of your team are you that they didn't abandon ship and made a game out of it?
Well, it's just who we are. I mean, just proud of our guys. We just continue to battle. And, who knows if we get, a couple of those 2-point plays, what's happening at the end of the game. I mean, if we get 3 of those 2-point game conversions. But just tough guys, just resilient, hard-nosed kids, and just proud of them. I mean, I wouldn't want to coach in a group of young men. Just, these kids are phenomenal young men. I love the guys that I coach, and just proud of the way they just continue to keep battling.
Coach, last question, and thank you for your time today. Did Will Worth throw the ball a lot better than you thought he would in that game?
No. Really, that's one of his strong suits. I mean, we just know coming in, he's a good passer. He's a tough, hard-nosed runner. He's not the flashy runner that Keenan and Tongo are, but he's more of a, hard-nosed, tough, grinded-out runner. But he's always been a good passer. That's not been a surprise. We knew he could throw the football.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck this weekend.
Hi, Leo. Take care.
And Coach, well, thank you for your time as well. Look forward to hearing from you again next Monday.
All right, Chuck. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Coach Ken Niumatalolo from the Naval Academy.